Glad to have you with us. I missed doing that, Jerry. It's been a long time since I had. I think the last time I had, I was in touch with Americans was in May or something like that. I personally. So it's a long time. I need American. I teach American history, American civilization. I lived in America for some time. It's only that the plan was to invite students to talk to you because the Tunisian Revolution was made by young people, not by us, not by Hatem or myself. Yeah, even though we participated indirectly. But it's only that my students are now sitting for their exams. This is the exams period, the main session period. So they started the exams yesterday. I got in touch with two very good students I have. They said, sorry, I didn't know that my topic, I teach a class about the 60s in America, the 1960s revolution. They said, sir, we have your exam tomorrow. I didn't know that. My topic is now it's a 3 hours exam, so they finish at 11:30, but the campus is like on the other side of the city. So that's the reason. Otherwise, I'm quite sure that my students would have really appreciated but anyway, so I'm here, so I'll be speaking on behalf of academics in Tunisia. Just one word about this place where we are staying. We are staying in a place called Port El Kantawi area. Port El Kantawi. This is a touristy zone in Sousse. Downtown Sousse is about 15 minutes drive from here. This is the third main city in the country. You already see, Hatem for sure told you that we are 10.5 million in Tunisia, 500,000 live in Sousse. So this is the third main city. It is a university city. This is the second. We have the second largest campus in the country. We have 45,000 students, university students in Sousse. This is the #1 touristic city. No other city would have more tourists than Sousse. We have 125 hotels in Sousse. I'm talking about resort hotels, I'm not including the small ones. And one of the nicest touristy areas in the country is the Marina Port Kantawi. I think that's what you're having lunch. That's where you are having lunch. And it's for walking distance from here. This is my daily cafe. I'm addicted to that shisha, that hookah. I'm careful with pronunciation. Hooker with H. Right. Because when I was in New York, the first meeting I told them, where is the hookah place? They looked at me like that.
Especially with a New York accent.
It is hookah. Yeah, what's wrong with this guy? So I come here like every afternoon with my wife, etc. And we smoke. I do at least here. That's something culture in Tunisia. You go to a cafe after work every day where you meet your daily friends, you talk, etc. before going back home. So this is person, my friend. My place, sorry, and Jerry knows it very well since we've been friends for a few years now. Jerry asked me to talk to you about, of course, this revolution since you are here now, since you are witnessing what's going on. And to me personally, when we talk about the revolution, we use the present perfect because things are still going on. If we want really to call it a revolution, it must lead to a radical change compared to what we had before. And of course, we can't change everything in a few months. We need a long time. But let me talk to you about the role of academics, students and teachers in this revolution. So first of all, a very brief description of university life before the 14th of January. Hatem, can you hear me well? Otherwise I could speak louder. Can you, madam? Yes. You should know, and this surprised Jerry when he interviewed me a few months ago. Universities have always had limited freedom. I mean, there was widespread censorship in the country. The press was not free, whatever. But in the campuses, we've always had limited freedom. That is, students, and especially those who are part of that IJET. The IJET is the equivalent of your SDS, the Students for Democratic Society, and the Students Union. These people have always had unlimited criticism. That is, they've always been critical, naming the person, naming his wife, talking about corruption, whatever. And when I was surprised by that when I started teaching in Tunisia 8 years ago. And I talked to the people, what's going on? How come that they have a lot of freedom that nobody else in the country has? They said, as long as they don't get out, let them talk. They bunch of intellectuals, young people, let them talk. And we had the police in the campuses until 2 months ago. Their role was to let these people stay in there. They never interfered with what they say, whatever. Their publications were free, but as long as they don't get out, okay? But there was, of course, a very limited number of students really involved with politics at the time. Most of our students were skeptic. They didn't care about politics. They didn't see any reason for involvement with politics. It won't change anything anyway. That was their perspective. So there was real activism, but it's very limited. The other students were apolitical. They didn't talk about Tunisian politics. Whenever they talk about politics in our department, English, England and America, please, we don't care about what's going on here. It's corrupt anyway, so we don't care. That's for students. Teachers, you had three categories. You had those who were part of the, who belonged to the main party dominating in Tunisia, the late main party. These people had political ambitions, future secretaries of state, future ambassadors, whatever. So they were doing like the apology of the regime. I have even colleagues who wrote books, praising Ben Ali, etc. Then you had those I call personally the leftists, people who still live in the Cold War era, communists, whatever, who did not really, they don't appreciate that times have changed. They still use the leftist slogans, and they're critical of anything the government is doing. And I think they'll be critical forever, these people. I mean, they're subversive just for the sake of it. Revolution for the sake of it. And then you have the majority who didn't care. Majority who were just didn't see any point of discussing politics. They talked academia, we talked publications, we talked life, law, football, but not politics. So that's before the event started. Then you should know, I guess you already had perspective about the events, I'm quite sure that you also read. You should know that the events did not start in Sousse. The events started in the hinterland, I mean in Sidi Bouzid, Kasserine, for obvious reasons. I mean, for regional disparities. I mean, there is no poverty in Sousse or in the coastline, very limited. But over there, I've always told tourists that there are two Tunisia. This is a schizophrenic country. It's a country of paradoxes par excellence. You have in the coastline a certain way of life, which is more like westernized, where the culture is more liberal, but where also people are not suffering. This is where the middle class, the successful Tunisia is. But then also you have the other Tunisia. It's true that 2/3 are living here in the coastline, but the other Tunisia is there, and the other Tunisia is discriminated against. I'm using the present, I mean, at least let's use the past. It was discriminated against. No, it didn't start with Ben Ali, it started in the Roman time. Already, that's nature, I mean, there's nothing in there. So already at that time, there were regional disparities. But that's all, these people, they suffered, they waited, and then that's all. It comes a time when people can no longer lose their patience. So the revolution started there, not here. It took us a few weeks to join here. This is not the first time that we had rebellion starting in the hinterland. 2 years ago we had also in Erdeyef events like that.
The mining region. They haven't been there, yes.
So here, this is what we did. I mean, in Sousse was expectant. Let's wait and see what's going on. But then who was the first to respond, to show a total support for this movement? Students from my university, the University of Arts and Human Sciences. We teach human sciences, so these people are concerned. And then that's when things started, really. But what I noticed was that the number of protesters was not as limited as usual. I mean, this time we had a huge number of students. And this time we had protests with teachers joining. That's a new thing. We no longer had few students talking, we had a large number of students and teachers participating. Why did we participate? Why did we join? There are two events that really interested us. First of all, in my university, we were for the first time attacked by the police. That is, the police came in and started attacking everyone.
This was before the demonstrations, or?
No, during the demonstrations.
So they just indiscriminately went in?
Yeah. Beaten every teachers and students, and we never had that. The police doesn't get inside. So we noticed that the regime was fragile. Was really, when you start beating, this means that you're that's it. So we noticed that. We saw that there was hope, that the cause was not desperate this time. And then what really invited teachers to join massively, including myself, I participated on the 13th of January, was the fact that one colleague of ours was shot in Douce. And you know, now with Facebook, the pictures, you have them live. I personally, I'm not usually very fond of demonstrations, whatever, because I didn't see, to me personally, that's not my role. I have to educate people, talk to them.
All of a sudden Facebook was in there. Was that partly what was responsible for the communication and how quickly everybody...
It's not partly, it's mainly that.
So that was it. You were describing things before. And
Paul, when you ask a question, can you...
Okay, I've been asking, he had mentioned all of a sudden Facebook shows up, and I wanted to know, he said it's mainly responsible, and that was, okay.
No, of course, I'll answer that, but of course later on I'll be glad to answer all your questions, but about Facebook, you should know that it's not censored. All the media was censored before. The media, you know what people were doing in Sousse 5 days before the 14th? We had the football game, we won 5 whatever, everybody was drinking, partying as if people were not being shot. The media were not talking about it. I mean, the only uncensored media, if you want, is Facebook. I didn't belong to Facebook before. It's this revolution that invited my generation and those before me to those seniors to Facebook. Facebook was limited to a certain age, 20, 30, whatever. Right. But on Facebook, we watched this the picture of this teacher who was demonstrating peacefully in Douce. That's all. He was demonstrating against but he was peacefully, and he was assassinated. That was. I mean, that's you. And he left an 8-month-old baby. I have now. My son will be 1 year old 2 weeks from now. He was 8 at that time. And I'm also a teacher. I'm also peaceful. I don't use violence. So I put myself like in his position. Imagine somebody who's demonstrating peacefully, and then he doesn't go back home to his baby. That's all. So the following day, all teachers via Facebook, and then all our students came in, and we did the huge demonstration downtown Sousse on the 13th, the day before Ben Ali was left. What surprised me is that there was no fear anymore. People didn't care anymore. And I have colleagues who are mothers. Aren't you afraid? We could be arrested. We could be shot. They said we don't care anymore. That's all. Enough is enough. The difference now between Sousse and Sidi Bouzid and Kasserine is that the slogans and the motivation in Sidi Bouzid and Kasserine was basically social and economic, poverty, unemployment. The people who were demonstrating in this part of the country, especially in Sousse, we all have jobs. We are not poor. But the slogans were democracy, freedom, rule of law, enough is enough, let's get up. I mean, you see, so there were multiple slogans in the country, multiple demonstrations. In the hinterland, it was social and economic. Social and economic. It wasn't political at the beginning. It's social and economic. The coastline was observant. But then when the government started shooting people, which is new, and when you start shooting people, I mean, we cannot forgive that. It's unforgivable. So it's then, in this part of the country, when the demonstrations were political. Who designed the slogans? Not me, not teachers, and no political parties, no leaders, no ideologies. Young people who had slogans that young people in New York City would have, or young people in Japan would have. Nothing religious, nothing whatever. We want freedom, that's all. Enough is no censorship, no corruption, whatever. And the slogans there, some of the slogans were in English. Game over. Ben Ali, game over. Game over. You saw that?
I did somewhere.
No, I was. You know what surprised me personally? When I used to talk to young people about politics, they didn't care. And I thought that, when I say I mean teachers like myself, we thought that these people were not involved. But we misunderstood them. They were not at that time because they didn't see any point into doing it. But then they made what happened now. They used Facebook and their network to invite the maximum of people. The students, I saw girls coming with their mothers. They invited their mothers with them to the demonstration. People were dressed very nicely, whatever. I mean, people had everything to lose. everything to lose because they're fine. It's only that their slogans were that enough is enough. We want to get involved, and we want freedom now. We want democracy now. That was I was personally, I had tears in my eyes when I participated in that demonstration. It was a very emotional. I mean, it's a very emotional time, you know, to take part in such a mass movement where with no political, there was no single political party with no nothing. There was just the labor union slogans and the students' union slogans, and then spontaneous civil society like human rights organization, Sousse, whatever. So I insist on that because now you have, and that's what is disappointing young people. They see only old people on TV. Sorry for the expression, but that's what they tell us. Okay. Old people, and they see political parties. These people were not there until the 14th. They appeared on the 14th of January at 8 o'clock in the evening news. There were no political parties. There were only young people, civil society. That's all. So that's what disappointing young people now.